Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. Dogboat333, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron 4, the New Order as the United States of Brazil. Now, last time we were here together, well, the Germans decided to be a little uppity and try to incite some unrest, try to get a bill passed. Instead, we decided to sack our defense minister, who was a little bit of incompetent, and now we are at risk of a goddamn fucking coup. I believe that's an old Brazilian term, goddamn fucking, if I'm not mistaken. My Brazilian viewers can confirm or deny in the chat before. So we're gonna go ahead and get to it. But first, we gotta take a look at some of the landmarks of Brazil, of course. Starting with Campo Grande. The enormous size of Mato Grosso has produced a great contrast between its north and south. One is a hot and humid land of massive estates worked by sharecroppers. The other is a temperate land of small farms worked by their owners. In 1872, Campo Grande was founded as a village for immigrant workers to exchange their goods. By 1900, it evolved into the bridge by which southern Mato Grossanese farmers could export their soybeans and cotton to the coast. A distinct culture grown out of German and Italian heritage and a lack of connections to Cuiabá, the South has developed a highly distinct identity and largely separate economy. Campo Grande is already considered larger than Cuiabá, and that margin widens, so too calls to partition Mato Grosso and make what is already the de facto capital of the South into an official one. There we go. Now we have the big city of all, Sao Paulo. One of my favorite weekend songs off a new album. Just saw him live last week, at least last week when I recorded this. Fun stuff. Sao Paulo's motto, non ducor duco, or I am not led, I lead, perfectly encapsulates the city's progressive nature. As one of the fastest growing cities, recently stripping Rio de Janeiro of its title the most populous city within Brazil, its industry is inexorable, and scientific contributions are unmatched among Brazilian cities. Alongside that, Sao Paulo is a melting pot of numerous cultures, with thousands upon thousands of Jewish, Japanese, Italian, and Arabian people, among others, calling cosmopolitan city home. Yet no city is without its flaws, as Brazil's most populous metropolitan area, Sao Paulo is a lightning rod for the nation's never-ending political joust. As hurricane passes through the city, its mayor, a man named Adhemar de Barros, can be found smack dab in the storm's eye, biding his time for when it sets its eyes on Brasilia, like he does. And I read this one already. Let's check out the rest of Mato Grosso real quick. Ever since its founding, Cuiabá has been one of the most isolated cities in the world. Even today, one departing Cuiabá must travel over 800 kilometers to reach the nearest city of greater size. It was a further extremity to which Bandeirantes traveled in their search for gold, closer to the Andes and the Atlantic, unbearably hot and humid, and effectively inaccessible over land just before the invention of rail. Were not May the capital of enormous Mato Grosso, it is doubtful if the city would even have survived past the end of the 18th century gold rush. Its population sat stagnant and its citizens extremely poor well into the 20th century. Recent efforts to develop the interior have buoyed the fortunes of the city, which is now a fast-growing testament to the rapid pace of Brazilian agricultural modernization. Well, there we go. Let's go ahead and hit that timer and see what is about to happen. It was a hot day in autumn. The sun was so intense and made it seem as if the world itself was suffering from its heat. But that didn't stop the boys from playing soccer as they did on the school days. Ever since the schools built a new court to play, not even the scorching sun hitting their backs stopped them. One thing that they noticed was a fancy car that just stopped near their school. From inside, a tall man wearing a fancy suit that was a terrible choice for his climate, which could be noticed by how much sweat was on his brow. He walked towards them, the man with the game stopping so as to not accidentally hit the old man. "Hey there, kids. Can anyone pass me the ball?" The old man that suddenly appeared was now asking to play with them. Before they could say anything, Julio kicked him the ball, which the old man catched and started doing some tricks. He then kicked the ball up and picked it up in his arms. He seemed to be talking to a few of the boys about how school was, like, and if they had any complaints, which most replied that math and physics were a bore. The man agreed while laughing, said he'd get something done about it. Just as quick as he came, the old man left, though not before signing the ball they had with the name, Adhemar de Barros. Adhemar got back in his car, sweat dripping from his brow. Fucking suit. Should have gotten something more lighter to wear in this heat. How many more schools are left for me to visit today? 10 more, sir. Well, you better hit the pedal then. I still have a meeting with the economy minister later. It's probably going to be another stupid waste of time about the treasury. And so the car started up and went off into the busy streets of Sao Paulo. Not a single calm day for the wicked. Let's finish working our way down to here. Let's increase health awareness. Our great President Adhemar is first and foremost a student medicine, and he's not forgotten his roots as a doctor. As such, he understands more than anyone that preventing, not curing, is the key to wellness. We'll send doctors to schools throughout Brazil to examine the health of the youth, treat any minor ailments that they may have, and educate them on basic hygiene and proper nutrition for a healthier, energized Brazil. Oh boy. Beneath the bustling cities of Guanabara, centuries of history are hidden. The same dry asphalt where thousands of feet walk over it every day that witness the columns of men proudly boasting their military uniforms as they march to challenge their masters. With few having their story narrated by teachers with pride and many others being completely forgotten, with the only mute streets to tell their tragic tale. Adhemar was hoping for the latter, but he underestimated the strength of the rebels. With a sigh, he finally spoke. Are you really sure this is true, Natel? Or is it just a false flag report to get me on my nerves? After taking more time than he should, Natel replied, I'm afraid not, Mr. President. I've just received reports. A good number of officers in the city have either joined the uprising or surrendered without a fight. And there are full pictures of soldiers hanging out by the roads and not doing anything, like if the city is under martial law. Adhemar buried his face in his hands. First Corel going rogue, and now this. The next day, there would be columns of tanks marching over Brasilia. Feeling his boss's frustration transmitting over cable, Natel spoke again. But, there are no signs of barricades being raised in the streets yet, so it could have been worse. If they didn't do it today, they surely will tomorrow, the longer this mess lasts. Where are our men? Where's Olympio? I don't remember sending him on an extended vacation to the Caribbean. Natel swallowed hard before answering. He is unavailable for now. Went to Minas Gerais for trip inspection. A loud spat escapes from Adhemar's mouth. Oh, is that so? Sounds like the perfect excuse to not be in trouble for a coup, but to help it by doing nothing. He leans back in the chair, exhaling his fury before his composure goes with it. Call all the high-ranking officers available. Those we can trust. I want them in my office. Immediately. Oh boy. Since when did you care about German-Brazilian equality? I've always stood up for them. We treat them like second-class citizens. Corel's smile advertised how hollow the sentiment was. Something in the air of the Copacabana hotel meeting room mollified the tension. Weeks of paid squabbling tired the two, and even Corel's friends opted to lounge on the beach. They'd still coup if things go awry, but the time for intimidation was over. It was a stalemate. And since when was your brother interested in politics? I can assure you his military experience is beyond reproach, well suited to be the defense minister. This was dumber than his previous demand, but at least it was the worst his hardball offer went. And money? Yes, money. Finally, something he could work with. Okay, how's this? I give you the money, Medici becomes defense minister, you know him, very efficient, and to sweeten the deal, you get a nice and pleasant house arrest. Adhemar can't help but sound playful, even with the idea of democratic state. Corel was just a man. Find out what the man wants, and you gain control. If that's not to your taste, there's a one-way ticket to El Grande with your name on it. Despite the president's naked threat, Corel leaned back in his elegant Art Deco chair and stroked his chin thoughtfully, like he was pondering vacation destinations. Can I choose which of my homes to stay in? Oh, well, when you look at that. In the half-lit silence of Amari Cruel's aging Belle Epoque manor, the humid terrible breeze slipped from beneath the shade of palm trees through the ornate balcony and past a parade of rustling military memorabilia to cradle Cruel in a warm, sweltering daydream. Reclining on his throne of gilded upholstery, the edges of consciousness wavered. Vision swirled before him, donning the proud green general's tunic he could no longer wear. He gazed at the sun-drenched Bahia sky that stretched out on the endless carpet of verdant plantations, his workers laboring, distant and featureless. The rev of an engine. One day soon he'd savor a rumble of the pistons racing down the BR-116, his new Mercedes W111. Even if in the meantime he would stay sequestered in his estate. Gathering dust on its opulent exterior as the rest of the world forgot it exists. Amidst a melancholy tableau, his gaze wandered out the window. Far beyond his premises, it was as if he could see Medici, somehow still filled with purpose, earning the IPE door to the defense minister's office, history now at his fingertips. Stepping in, Medici listened to the cold, sterile hum of the Matsushita HVAC unit that blew cool, crisp air into a small, geometrically austere space. A large Hasaranda desk stood in the middle, stripped of any trace of the previous tenant on the smooth surface. Tomorrow could wait, but Medici wouldn't. Opening the suitcase, he set down his only personal item, a bronze statuette of a faceless footballer. Next, a thick folder, full of profiles of every hardline of threat in the government. Krell was off bathing in his fortunes, but ousting the others was not an option. Medici in charge, though, he would make sure they obey. Cleaning up after a crisis was no easy feat. Well, would you look at that? Here's the new guy. Better than the old guy. Way better than the old guy. Doesn't look like any blurbs on what he's about, though, which is probably okay. And the Progressistas are far more powerful now. You love to see that. It's all coming together. Ooh. Military coup in Turkey. Dr. Pimentel arrives in his car from the big city early in the morning. The village is quiet this time of day, as many would expect such a rural place to be. However, doctors are already painting the facade of the building. Dr. Pimentel parks his car nearby on the patch of gravel, grabs his things, and goes inside the school. In the cafeteria, he sets up a cot, dons his protective gear, and places his bag on a nearby table. Village kids are coming in, and it's time to go to work. One after the other, all kids are taken out of class and sent to him for examination. All of them get a washing. Some of them have the telltale swollen red gums of periodontitis. They get floss, in some cases prescribed antibiotics. Others have cavities and need much more involved treatment. Those very uncomfortable, the doctor knows the alternative is much worse. Regardless of the treatment administered or the status of the patient, the end of the appointment is always the same. Dr. Pimentel gives each of them a toothbrush and a tube of toothpaste. Always a bean-sized amount, brush in a circular motion, do it twice a day. When the toothpaste runs out or if the toothbrush becomes old, come back to the school for a new one. They will replace it free of charge, a new service from the government. Taking care of all the school kids is a long and tiring process, but Dr. Pimentel makes sure no child is left out of their first dentist appointment. Even if he's not paid for the overtime, it's still important every kid is treated. Fortunately, the head of a school is appreciative and lets the doctor sleep in his house for the night. Refreshed, the doctor wakes up the next morning and drives off for the city. Happy he's made a difference in this village. And there are Dr. Pimentels all over the land. Well, that's just sweet. Let's do some academic base and research facilities. What would we want? That's the question, isn't it? How are we doing on development? Schooling is barely picking up. Research. Special expertise. That's coming along. We might be able to move on to the next level soon, even. Our research facilities has done jack shit, it seems. So let's do something there. Well, we could probably do both. It seems the only thing that changes is whether or not we get extra political support or if we get academic base. I think academic base is the way to go here. Let's do changes of curriculum. Even bigger problem in rural areas is than the lack of primary education is secondary education. A rural child who does manage to start primary school and will rarely ever step foot in a junior school classroom. While our new schools are large enough to accommodate both primary and secondary students, in older facilities we must run calculations and introduce double shift schooling to provide to anyone who wants the chance of education. In addition to this, Adhemar, ever the polyglot, has ordered that university students be obliged to learn a foreign language, whether it be Romance, Germanic, or even Japanese. Adhemar himself knows many languages and understands the benefits of being able to converse with foreigners in their mother tongue. The better we understand the people abroad, the better benefits we could gain. Alright, so our highway is nearly done. Testing range is coming along. It's really the healthcare system that's lagging a little bit. But we'll get there. We'll get that sorted. And there goes New Granada. I'm not too shocked. Oh. If we're talking about shocked. That. I forgot that was coming so soon. Jaime TNO wipes his forehead as he adjusts his dark goggles. It was not only impressively hot in the crowded bunker filled with scientists and military men, but right now, months of work and millions of cruceros sat 10 kilometers away in the little rainforest. A 10-kiloton nuclear bomb, Ogum, named after the Umbandas Oryxa of war and metalworking. This project was years in the making, and Jaime could only feel tension in the small spaces everyone focused on the massive green in front of them, as an unasked question hung in the air. What if this was a failure? No, it couldn't be. Jaime peeked to his left and saw Alvaro Alberto, his back straight and demeanor stoic as he waited to see if his years of advocacy and hard work would pay off. 10 seconds to detonation, gentlemen. Jaime heard himself saying as the only things he could focus on were his breathing, the ticking close to his right. To top himself succumbing to dread and panic, he used the rhythm of his breathing to count down the seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2. The countdown didn't finish as a surprise exclamation rang out in the bunker. Everyone would certainly be blinded if it weren't for the goggles, but it didn't take away from the surprise of the bomb detonating early. As soon as the flash died down, everyone looked out in awe as a mushroom cloud rose above the jungle. The gong of native parrots that flew off in surprise, rising over the sound of a shockwave. Everyone in the bunker was silent for a beat when Alvaro started to giggle, then laugh. "Gentlemen, we've done it!" he exclaimed, and everyone joined in with the celebrations. Even Jaime released a sigh of relief as he turned to the ecstatic crowd. It seems the question had an answer, and he thanked heaven above the answer was no. Brazil has finally cracked the atom. Look at that. Within the supreme meeting room of the Palacio del Planalto, Adhemar spoke with jubilance unheard of for some time. The first bomb was constructed with scarcely a hitch, cementing Brazil's status as South America's ascendant in national security and international projection. For Adhemar was elation beyond description. The acquirement of nuclear weaponry in the service of the Republic, Adhemar read from Medici's report to the assembled members of the National Defense Council. Our continued security has been secured in not only the Americas, but among the great powers of the globe. It's a great satisfaction that our nuclear operations have proved to be a resounding success. Adhemar set the report down and joined the applause that filled the room. His grin reflected their fortunes. Every Brazilian would enjoy the success. Indeed, you're correct about one thing. Fact, General. We can count ourselves among the great powers of the globe, perhaps even a superpower in the making. Another round of applause. Adhemar sighed, taking his seat once more. So what happens next, gentlemen? It would be prudent to keep our program a secret, at least for now. Medici curled his lips, hands folded upon the table. Better to keep our opponents guessing on our capabilities. Additionally, I fear an exposed nuclear program will be an open target of foreign agents. Laudo Natello drummed his fingers against the table, tutting. On the contrary, a public demonstration would strike fear in our rivals, both domestic and abroad. I guarantee it would also merely help your election pollings, Your Excellency. Adhemar grumbled at this. The gains he can make with the public could cement his victory in the next election, yet Medici's prudence may yet prove wiser. Such immense power begged to be used, yet could Adhemar endure the aftershock of such a tremendous shake-up in the intercontinental balance of power? The fire of the gods was in their hands. Now this should mean that I don't have to worry about that fucking nuclear budget. So I can get working on upping some of the expenditure. Not too much. The sun swung westwards. Paulo yawned in his seat, watching as a multi-story concrete building hid the sun behind their visage, emerging now and then in sharp reliefs of light and shadow. Another day at the cafe in an afternoon shift. All he could think of was the simple amenities of a student in Belo Horizonte. A nap, a good evening out, and a sleep that would follow until the days would begin to end. Classes, work, mosquitoes buzzing around him. Just before he could doze off, however, he remembered something. Yesterday, the lecturer told Paulo's class that they were obliged to choose a foreign language. Any foreign language? A female student asked. A nod and answer. Any foreign language. Instruction would be added as an extra class. A heave and shout up. Some chose German and French, others Spanish and Italian. Here and there, Japanese and Chinese. That left Paulo. Well, what was your foreign language of choice? I'll think about it. I'm not committed yet. He got off the bus stop near the library. Any language, he thought. He thumbed through a few volumes before he got the magic word. Montesquieu. Monaco's Italian. Any language. Paulo read that in the newspapers, but if instructions are not available for chosen language, the classes would have to wait until they were provided. He grinned and went home. The next day, I would like to study Monegasque. The startled professor said that he would have to wait until the university could give people proficient language. Then I don't mind waiting, he said with a smile. I'll find ways to busy myself in the meantime. Before a day was that half of students expressed sudden interest in Monegasque. And for a day, Monaco was a household name. Tricky. Now let's modernize education. While Brazil will obviously never be able to catch up to like Guangdong, at least in terms of innovation, we can still work together in work towards achieving their prestige and get somewhat better. The logical first step will be to modernize our existing research facilities and establish new ones in order to make our tertiary education on par with the modern world's trends, and on par with nations such as Australia and Canada. Who knows? We might even make it to the world's best at this rate. Jose Farias Colo could see a second sun in the distance. The flames of his barn were visible even several kilometers away. Every day it seemed there was a fresh incident. Slashed tires, broken windows, and now arson. Paraguay was far from the agrarian paradise as it had first appeared. Prices were rising back home in Brazil and squeezing out poor farmers and largely landowners consolidated their vast holdings. Not so in Paraguay, where many landowners either went bankrupt or had fled the countryside during the war, leaving large plots of land available to anyone with even a bit of hard Brazilian currency. He had moved his family almost overnight, grabbing up a farm 5 times larger than the one they had left. The work was hard, but everything seemed so cheap, and the markets were good. He even had enough to hire some extra farmhands and a fancy new tractor, luxuries he could never afford back home. The peasants who used to work with this land resented the Brazilians for buying it out. It didn't matter that Jose had bought it fairly. It didn't matter that Jose was just trying to provide for his family. It didn't even matter that Jose even tried to offer a hand by hiring them to work for him. He was just a Brazilian dog who stole the land he paid for. He watched with grim resignation as his barn burst into cinders, another casualty of his neighbor's infernal jealousy. He doubted he could trust the authorities to respond fast enough. No, the only thing he could count on was the revolver on his hip. The cold steel felt comfortable as he held the grip, groping the trigger with his fingers. The next time those vermin set foot on his property, they would pay a high price. Jose had sacrificed everything to build this new life here, and if these vandals wanted to take his paradise from him, then he was prepared to give them hell. Well, that's not going to be problematic at all. Let's try to cut down on nepotism if we can. Hold up some competency tests. So I believe the maximum we can get is 200 million. So I kind of want to see if we can save up to get that. Had it not been for the hectoliters, what was that they'd called hundreds of liters? Or was that heptoliters? He had forgotten of yerba mate. Paulo would have died of overwork during the last 2 weeks of exams. Thankfully, he had come out of it more or less fine and could finally make it back to regular studies and work. Walking into the day's anatomy classes, he was surprised at what he saw. A new prosocorum, or dissecting theater, with strong lamps and better equipment. It had been set up while everyone was absent during exams. Now he could actually see what his professor was cutting up. With the rest of his classmates, he oohed and awed while committing to memory the first view of the complicated circulatory and lymphatic systems outside of literature. Then came lunch in a lab class. This lab, too, had received what fashionable types might call a glow-up. Strange new microscopes from Japan with state-of-the-art technology that Paulo had only read about were the first of the things to shake up the world as a medical student. Given the next few hours of Brazil, the professor went on a whirlwind tour of new technology soon to be used in Brazil. Cardiac pacemakers, transplants of the kidneys, liver, and heart, and the transition of mental patients from Russification in mental hospitals to care in their own communities. By the end, Paulo felt two things: dizziness at all he'd seen, and a resolution he'd never had before, to study more and take part in the march process. All is as the doctor ordered. Here we go. Let's do Brasil numero 1. Our education system has long suffered from the twin pains of underfunding and disorganization, but following President Adhemar's comprehensive set of reforms, the education system has rapidly expanded and improved. This will prove to be a solid foundation for the Brazil future, one whose mind stands shoulder to shoulder among the great powers of the world. Only one step remains towards us truly making the dreams of Brazil a reality. If we seek to stay on the top, we must learn from those standing there already. Foreign experts will be paid to come to Brazil and lay out a new plan for an entirely new education system. New courses, methods of teaching, and a set of high expectations will be cornerstones of a new Brazilian education system. There we go. So I'm trying to think what else to talk about. Ooh. Well, that's not good. Just companies. The HoI they rode was a sturdy girl, but even she was tested by the wind currents of the Cachimbo Mountains. Lotto wondered how Silva, full 30 years as senior, could gaze out of the shaky windows this high up in the middle of nowhere, the atmosphere warm and sticky, only occasionally hearing the remote. Sorry, I got distracted by this. Let's cut this down. I don't need that much support equipment. Well, what we could use. I'm sure warm and sticky, only the roadways whirring, the occasional crackle radio, and somehow the calls of howler monkeys. Silva's neighbor will experience made him resistant to turbulence, and he loves seeing the Amazon's canopies spread out in endless green, punctuated by craggy peaks, meandering rivers, and brief glimpses of parrots and harpy eagles. Through his binoculars, he swore he almost saw a jaguar or two. I can't think of a better place for a nuclear test. Silva had the same broad grin he wore in his old chemistry classes. We're isolated from civilization, so we don't have to fear casualties or espionage. The Itacainas River can also be used to transport materials, so we don't have to worry much about roads. Of course, the water can be contaminated by radiation, but with right precautions, we can avoid a catastrophic leak. In addition, did you know the Amazon craton is some of the oldest crust on Earth? That means the region has the most stable bedrock imaginable, so we won't have to be afraid of an earthquake disturbing us. Or worse, our detonations triggering tectonic activity. And would you look at that? Silva pointed to an excavated section of the surface. Amidst vertigo, Mulatto caught sight of the mining benches and abandoned equipment. The existing infrastructure would speed things up as they salivated at the chance to hollow out the area into Brazil's personal atomic abyss. The perfect spot. Oh, very ominous. Put you there. Oh, would you look at that? Finally, after years of hard labor and extreme investment of both economic and political capital, the trans-Amazonian highways reached the borders of Peru and Colombia. The highway's completion irreversibly links the depths of the Amazon with Brazil's largest cities, providing a lifeline for trade and transportation to the entire country. Mega project to rival the Suez Canal now stands triumphant and complete. Clear sign to all the Americas and the world at large that Brazil's fire is not lessened in the slightest. Rocha's celebration is everywhere. Highway workers enjoy free drinks over the nation over. Political pundits breathe a sigh of relief, and near every citizen takes the street to celebrate a clear demonstration what a united people can accomplish. Even the highway's detractors are forced to admit reluctantly that Brazil will reap its benefits forever. Fireworks light up the skies of Brasilia, of Sao Paulo, of Rio. The economic benefits of the Trans-Amazonian Highway are obvious, but this is much potential political victory as an industrial one. The men and women who hold Brazil's highest office host massive parties celebrating the massive uptick in votes and popularity anyone in the administration is sure to gain. Foreign acknowledgement and congratulations have been on to flood in. As the world reacts with a mix of incredulity, joy, and sheer surprise at Brazil's ultimate success, its ultimate progress. A young girl watches as a strange black path through a cluster of trees and wonders at its purpose. A sudden growl, as loud as the great machines that clear cut away for the black stone, shakes her from her thoughts, and she runs back into the jungle. A bus speeds down the road, for his men hang out the windows and yell a drunken song. For a little go to the highway signals a different kind of progress. The Amazon would echo, with engines owls for a long, long time. So we have new edicts available in development GUI. Wonderful. Let's check those out. So we got all of this. Okay, interesting. So we get different. We could deforest the Amazon. Oh. I'll support ranching for now. Get a little bit of development going on over here. I think we'll want to be careful. We don't want to deforest things too badly. I don't imagine, at least. But more military factories. Let's get more missiles. Alright, so we got this done. Gambler's Paradise. Bountiful Cash. Could do all this. I believe I get a focus, little achievement pop. if I do this, it also helps the poverty rate. Alternatively, we could get working on one of these projects. I mean, this seems kind of fun, actually. Yeah, let's get working on these projects. Why not? President Adhemar knows that there's still plenty of work to be done to bring all of Brazil into the modern age. Roads need to be paved, factories need to be built, and fields all need to be watered. Brazil wants to be the global power he dreams of. Like Kubitschek and Lot, who focus on providing for the elites, all of Brazil will be able to enjoy the rewards of Adhemar's bold industrial program. The coalition is not the true heir to Getulio Vargas. Future generations will know that Adhemar de Barros and the PSP as a true builder of Brazil. The sound of roaring applause and camera bulbs popping, Adhemar snipped into two of the large ribbon that he'd set up in front of a new Petrolina Municipal Hospital and watched it flutter in the road with gleaming glint that seemed to shine even through the cathode rays of a TV. A shining new crown jewel in front of the metropolitan center of Petrolina, and a stunning achievement for the UDN. Edna watched with a complicated expression. In actuality, the choice of Petrolina had come from her office at essentially all the paperwork that had been ensured the hospital was complete on time. Adhemar, as usual, had only seen it as a trinket to prove his healthcare bill wasn't all hot smoke and diverted funds. But for once, he'd personally seen into the ambitious project. Bit by bit, Edna's modest vision for a prototype of medium-sized general hospitals fit to replicate across the Northeast had been sprawled into a massive specialty provider that would see patients flying from all across South America, maybe even further. He's still grinning through the TV screen. Somehow, she wished to go through it, tell the reporters what the man professing his love for the people of Petrolina had really thought when he first mentioned the idea, but then it hit her. For all the more outrage, what really rankled was not that a hospital had been built in a community that really needed it. It was that she'd simply been outflanked, plain and simple. Well, the first step to a victory was recognizing when one had been beat, and there was still so much more allocated in the bill, and they'd noticed her smiling before she turned off the TV and motioned for the door. On the way out, he heard her think out loud. Much more. We need much more faster. There we go. Could do more research. Can't go too much further down here yet. Let's do fire control systems, I guess. I don't know. Santa Barbara de Parra was just as vivid in person as it was on the postcards, an almost Disney-esque portal into the ideal of Brazilian suburban life. One of the prominent municipalities in Belém, scenic beauty and lively coastal customs could see compared to the coastal Californian townships of the same name. Why cannot say this word right now? Etymological similarities was shared with many Lusophone and Latinophobe locales across the world, and why Belém's Santa Barbara bore the name of Parra. That's what named it, an excellent choice for Edna Lott and her accompanying labor entourage, hoping to expand their appeal to more middle-class voters in this colorful northern town. She and her people had spent the early part of the day touring the center of town, meeting with local leaders and posing for photo ops. It was a standard fare, political rotisserie, the warm afternoon sun and the smiles of the passing townsfolk as a backdrop. Something absurd stopped her in the tracks, however, the otherwise austere opposition leader having to stifle her own laughter. Just look, she actually said, her ears not wanting to believe her mouth, just as her eyes almost couldn't process what they were seeing. Adhemar had the occasional absurdity to him, but this one was simply remarkable even for him. On a formerly bare wall across the boulevard, one of Adhemar's posters had been plastered for all to see, depicting the sitting president along the line of Brazil's most venerated leaders in history's past. Getulio Vargas, Juscelino Kubitschek, and even her own father, the Field Marshal Enrique Lott. Beneath them and at the foot of Adhemar's portrait read, "Great builder of the great republic of Great Brazil." It was a self-aggrandizing nationalism as if depicted by an actual child. And a lot was probably being too generous in assuming the poster was a parody. It seemed too painfully egocentric to not be, but there's almost charming irony depicting him as a lauded figment of the past. Election season was still some ways away, and his term was by no means over, yet he seemed to be doing her party's work on their behalf in portraying him as an antiquated relic of Brazilian politics. One can enjoy being petty every once in a while. Could head down this. Let's work on connecting the nation, actually. One of the biggest problems currently affecting Brazilian lives across the country is the lack of infrastructure. While Adhemar done much to fix it in Sao Paulo, it's now time to export the Paulista way to the rest of the country and get those roads working. What's better to show the people our commitment to them than a mega project, building a bridge to connect Rio and Niterói, two central cities so near one another yet so far away, being separated by the Guanabara Bay. But no more will that be a problem with the Adhemar Bridge. The first step towards connecting our nation will be complete, showing that Adhemar gets stuff done. How big is that gap between Rio and Niterói? That's not too crazy. South Africa now, huh? So the Australian sector, I guess it doesn't want to show up separately. Grand Council of Fascism without fascism. What's going on there? No, it beats me. Alright, we're done connecting the nation. Let's connect foreign experts. Getting around the country is much easier said than done as it currently stands. The very geography that our cities stand on, combined with unchecked sprawl in our lower income areas, mean that our urban areas are poorly connected to each other. Our rural farms and communities are even more disconnected, leading to serious headaches for our citizens. Japanese are no stranger to handling these kinds of issues. Their experts are exactly who we need in order to improve our infrastructure. We also have plenty of local companies who are willing to invest in our infrastructure projects will make Brazil's transport run at newfound efficiencies. There you go. Let's take a look at this new project. The Rio-Niterói Bridge is part of the government's grand plan to repair the economy of Guanabara following the devastation of New Year's storm in 1966. When completed, the bridge will link the cities of Rio and Niterói, supercharging the local economy. It must be done about 4 years. Oh. Not the deef. Let's work on the foreign experiments. Our urban planners have come up with the idea of developing a metro system in Sao Paulo, which will connect millions and be a surefire boon to business in the city. There's only one problem. We have no experience in constructing metros or subways. Let's turn to our Japanese friends once more, whose subway systems are among the finest in the world. The development will be invaluable in assisting our development of the Sao Paulo Metro and making sure that Brazil's first metro is nothing less than perfect. There we go. How's that was coming along? About 50% done with healthcare. We're working on expanding into rural areas. We'll be done in about a year on this. That's not bad at all. I don't like that disaster event described. Oh, would we look at that? We have better industrial expertise now. Excellent. I believe that unlocks more research for us that we can now do. Which is going to be lovely, of course. Let's get build up some urban transport. While some of our most ambitious planners have proposed a Sao Paulo metro system, some of our more grounded advisors instead have asked us to focus on improving the existing bus and rail networks. Who's to say we cannot focus on both and transform Brazil's cities into efficient metropolises for all to enjoy? Additional workers and funds will be diverted into our projects, public transport agencies, and across the country to get Brazil up and running. Mechanization rate is pretty low over here, actually. Let's get working on rectifying that. Oh, we have quite a few building slots unlocked to do stuff in, I'm noticing, which is nice to see. Should make it remains in that. Now less tags, less slowdown, probably for the best. Building up urban transport. Let's not forget the farmers. If there's one group that does not benefit equally from our country's past industrialization efforts, it would be our farmers. These men and women have been some of our hardest workers, yet previous administrations have seen them as nothing more than troublemakers and complainers. This will not be the case for President Adhemar. He will make sure that their concerns and wishes are heard, so that all Brazil can prosper together. More troops. Let's put this guy there. The August Revolution. Oh. Well, that's going to be interesting. Oh, look at that. That needs research facilities. That's fair enough. And let's get working now on building out that bridge even more. I think that President Adhemar is incapable of doing. Thanks to him, Brazil is on the move again at breakneck speeds. Bridges are being planned across the country, roads are being paved across rural areas, and the new metro system has begun to be built. Without these times, Adhemar has come into contact with many great businessmen and industrials throughout Brazil and the world. All pledge their willingness to help Brazil move forward. Adhemar will gladly use these connections to make sure that Brazil will become a great and proud country for generations to come. That's what I'm talking about. Here we go. The day I'm recording this, the new progress report came out for the America rework, and I'm thinking I might go ahead and read that for the channel and post that up. Let's select our next focus. Get a gesture piece. Probably working down here so we can get working on that project. So gesture of peace. Paraguay has been a bit of a foreign North side, to put it lightly. Their fascist history has made it near impossible for us to work with them on potential projects, let alone open diplomatic channels. However, Adhemar is not going to be easily dissuaded from working with a potential partner. Their domestic politics be damned. The Parana River is the continent's second longest river, and there's been very little done on both our side and the Paraguay side to understand the river's potential if we were to construct a dam. We will direct the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to work with various civil engineers to draft a proposal for a dam on the Parana River, in the hopes that Paraguay will also do their due diligence. That will reduce our tension a fair bit in the Cold War. Fuck Chile. Well, relations are tense. Why are we lagging so badly behind economically? Why are they getting double for New Granada? That's not fair. Okay, stability factors in. That's probably fair enough. Alright, so as long as we keep it below like 540, we should be okay. Well, shit. We'll just have to see how things go in the next video, I think. Because right now, I'm going to go ahead and leave things there. But thanks for watching, friends. Like, dislike, didn't. Leaving comments, feedback down in the comment section below. I read all the comments again, and I do appreciate any feedback you might have for me. Hit the sub button, hit the notification bell to keep updated with uploads as they come out. Check out the various descriptions down in the boxes. Links down in the description box. I think you all know the deal by now. I'm going to go and leave things there. Thanks so much for watching, my friends. My name has been Mr. Dogbot333. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye now.